A track can either be sample-based or tick-based. Let's talk about the differences between those two. We did review that in Pro Tools 101, but let's talk a little bit more about that now. Audio tracks are sample-based by default. You remember, you can come over here and select right there whether a track is sample-based or tick-based. An audio track is, by default, sample-based, whereas a MIDI or instrument track is tick-based by default. Material on a sample-based track always maintains the exact same time location. If you look at this piece of audio right here, if we take this and we change our tempo, no matter what we do, the time will remain from 0 to about 4 seconds. Okay, so if I move my tempo here, you'll see the MIDI data moves around, but the absolute time remains the same. This starts at 0 seconds and goes up to 4 seconds. Doesn't matter if we move this to a different location. Now it's starting at 10 seconds and going to 14 seconds. If we change this, it will always start at 10 seconds and stop playing at 14 seconds. That's because it will always maintain the exact same timing location in our session. So a good example of a sample-based track is, say you're working on a film score, you're composing the music, and you're given some sound effects by the sound editor, and you will always want those tracks that contain the sound effects to occur at the exact same time location. So that track would need to be a sample-based track because it needs to be based on an exact time. In this case, 10 seconds is where that audio clip starts, and it ends at 14 seconds. Music, you always want to follow the beat and bar location. So in Pro Tools, there are numerous sample-based selections you can make here. All of these, samples, feet and frames, time code, as well as minutes and seconds, are all sample-based data. They're all going to occur at the same time. The only reference that we have that's a relative reference is our beats and bars ruler. So if you have a track and it is a tick-based track, when you adjust the tempo, the material on that track will follow the change in tempos and will always maintain the exact same beat and bar location, and will ignore the fact that it will have a different minutes and seconds location. You can see that here. You can see as I stretch this out, now it always begins at bar 1, beat 1, and ends at bar 1, beat 3, no matter what I do to the tempo. But you can see that the timing location changes. That's because this is a relative time base. So in theory, let's see how this works. If we set our tempo at 120, you can see I've got a MIDI drum loop here. Let me play this for you. And we have a bass loop. These two work great together at this tempo, 120 beats a minute. As soon as we change the tempo, though, there's a problem. Obviously, these two don't line up anymore. The reason for that is because each of them is on a different time scale. The MIDI data is on a relative time scale, tick-based. It's going to follow changes in the beats and bars. And the audio is on a sample-based time base. And so it's always going to start and stop at the exact same time. In one of our future chapters, we'll talk about how to align both a MIDI track and an audio track and have them stretch and compress their data together so that they play together at the same tempo. Sample-based tracks are time-based, meaning that their clips will always occur at the exact same time, whereas instrument and MIDI data are tick-based, meaning that they will always occur at the same relative time. In this case, our relative timeline is beats and bars. So if we take this MIDI track and we turn it into a sample-based track, what you'll notice is that if I change the tempo, neither of these tracks now is following the tempo. They're both sample-based, therefore they're going to start and stop at the same time and location. You can see why we wouldn't want that with a music-based track. We always want tick-based tracks because we do want them to follow our tempo.